What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA DFS Early Look CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And of course, I'm from the WiseTake Nation, which you can find on all the social media platforms listed above or directly at WiseTake.com. If you're looking to take your DFS game to the next level, we are a premium DFS content provider as well as a DFS community design. So make you a DFS player, go check us out, WiseTake.com. If you are new to this channel, welcome. Please subscribe. Hit the notifications bell so you're notified whenever we go live. We do free content 5 days a week. We got baseball coming up. Trying to figure out how we're going to manage it, but we're going to do something. So a lot of good stuff coming out for free right here. So don't miss out. Hit the like button if you haven't already. It really helps us out. Leave some comments. And most importantly, if you could share the show, it goes a long way. I appreciate those of you who have. We need it to be a regular thing. We need it to be getting more people involved. The more we share, the more we grow, the more we're able to put back into our content, especially our free content. So I appreciate you guys. What's up, Pat? Pat says, what's up, CK? How you doing? What do you think about last night's slate? I didn't do too well last night. DraftKings, I did all right. FanDuel, I didn't do too well. I think I lost about half what I put out, which was a good amount, so that's not great. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox came through. We did like that game, but not everybody delivered. Wiggins came through. Oubre did not. Jordan Poole was mediocre. We had a lot of things open up, man. I did play a lot of Reggie Jackson, who was really cheap. Obviously, the whole Miami Heat situation opened up, which was pretty crazy. So that's the thing about NBA news, kind of dictates where you have to go. So sometimes you got to change your exposures based off the news that comes out. It's very reactionary. I always say that NBA DFS is one of the most reactionary sports that there is. Now, in every sport, you get different news. Every sport, you have to react. But in basketball, it's just so much weight. The ownership gets shifted so much, and it's the most predictable sport. So that news, like, there's the least amount of variance. So that news just goes a lot further, right? It means something. And last night was a perfect example of that, man. We got a ton of news that ended up opening up all these other plays that we weren't even really talking much about on the early look, because at that point, we didn't really know it was there. So that's where we're at. The last night's slate was all right. I could have done better. I think where I missed on FanDuel was I had everybody else that was in the winning lineups. A lot of Zubac, a lot of Bam, obviously, was very chalky and a great play. The Kendrick Nuns, I had a lot of Wiggins. Where I went wrong was not enough Hachimura, who ended up being pretty valuable at the small forward position. And yeah, I forgot. There was one other player, I think, at the shooting guard position, maybe. I don't know. I didn't go too crazy on Paul George. I had a lot, but I didn't go too crazy on FanDuel, which led way for me to get other people at shooting guard, which was kind of key. But Hachimura was definitely one player I didn't have enough of, who was in the winning teams and kind of separated me from them. Tony A, can't wait for baseball. Yeah, I'm excited for baseball, too. We make a lot of money for baseball, for sure. Pat said I would have cashed, but I don't know why Tip stopped playing Robinson. Yeah, I don't know, man. Tip's got a thing for his guys, and Taj Gibson is one of his guys. So at the end of the day, I guess he felt like Gibson was just playing more systemically, right? Tibbs does have a certain way of playing, and Taj Gibson, Derrick Rose, these guys that keep ending up on his team seem to play the way he wants them to. So at times, we will see him favor them in certain situations. But more than anything, I think it was that he was in when the Knicks were making that comeback, so he just didn't want to change anything, and they ultimately ended up winning. So, but yeah, man, coaches, that's you know how they say when you first get your driver's license, they'll say, like, when you learn how to drive, they'll say it's not really driving that's hard. It's paying attention to the other people, predicting what other people are trying to do, right? That's more difficult. Same thing in NBA DFS. It's not rostering or projecting players and all that, or recognizing good plays. It's in your mind trying to predict what some of these coaches are going to do. That's the more difficult part, in my opinion. All right, we got a big slate to get into. We're not going to address every game because it's 11 games, but try to look at some of the more key situations for sure. We're going to start off with the Magic, because the Magic basically got rid of their entire team, right? They don't have Aminu. They don't have, no Fournier. Vooch is gone. I don't know why Vooch is even still here in the player pool, but no Vooch, no Gordon, no Fournier. And we just got news that Terrence Ross is unlikely to play. So, yeah, not a whole lot going on. Now, the thing is, DraftKings and FanDuel both, they did price some of these guys up accordingly. So that makes things interesting. But I did decide to put Michael Carter Williams as the cover boy, if you will, because his role seems to be fairly defined at this point, right? Let me find him real quick. Orlando. 8 o'clock game in Orlando. You don't see that every day. So he's 5.5 on FanDuel, which is pretty cheap. And I think that him and Nunn, because we know Dragic is out. Now Jimmy Buckets is here. If Buckets gets ruled out, then expect, Nunn to be popular again. But this is interesting. So I'm not really worried about a minutes cap. Why? Because he played 32 minutes against Denver. He only played 23 minutes against Phoenix, back-to-back, whatever. But we should expect Michael Carter Williams to be hyper-aggressive and take a ton of shots. Again, when you look at this roster, James Ennis, Chuma Okeke, like these are all guys that we haven't seen them in the situation before. So you might be looking at Kem Birch, for instance. Oh, but he doesn't project well. He's a fairly low usage player. That was with all those dudes on the court. Like Kem Birch, I've seen him play in preseason slates where he wasn't playing with a lot of those regular starters, and he was a very good point per minute player. So Mo Bamba's kind of interesting. He's 4,800, and now instead of having 3 centers, they got 2. So, I'm seeing projected starting lineups of Michael Carter Williams, Terrence Ross, James Ennis, Chuma Okeke, and Kem Birch. But again, Ross is unlikely to play. So I would think that means that Dwayne Bacon is going to slide up in that lineup. Bacon is another person that I think we need to consider from Orlando, and he's fairly cheap on both sides. Not as cheap as he normally is, but again, we just expect these players to be more aggressive, right? So we're looking at a bunch of low usage players that are now going to be asked to increase their usage. Now, on the flip side, we do have some concerns about how close this game could stay against Portland, obviously, but it comes at the end of the day, it also comes down to bodies. Yeah, Teague's going to be waived by Orlando. So Teague's not even going to play for Orlando. So, yeah, I mean, if you look at how many players, what do we have? I'm assuming that these guys aren't going to be ready yet. RJ Hampton and all these players, like the new players they acquired, that's why we're discussing this. Because I'm assuming that they won't be ready at this point. So we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... 8 players that I'm seeing, at least that are rosterable, that have an opportunity to play today if Terrence Ross is out. So we're going to have to dig into that situation as the day goes on and make some decisions. And it could come down to one thing that could help us make those decisions is basically kind of working backwards. You're going to start with Michael Carter Williams. Sort of work backwards and finding where do I need help? What positions did I not really like, or what positions where this Magic player fit the price? But as of now, we'll see if anyone's called up that we're missing. But as of now, it does look like Orlando is going to be a team that we need to kind of figure out. Because again, I know Enos and Bacon, and these aren't guys that we're used to rostering on a regular basis, but somebody's going to be more aggressive than usual. Multiple people should be more aggressive than usual. We're talking about Fournier, Gordon, and Vooch all gone. Right. And even Aminu, who's been soaking up a lot of minutes at the 4. So something's going to happen. Maybe it's one of these young guys that we haven't seen a whole ton of. I don't know, but you get the feeling something's going to happen. And we like short-handed teams. Harden, we're waiting on the news for James Harden. That's actually one of the first games going. If he's out, Brooklyn did everybody dirty with the Joe Harris shit, right? That was jacked up. Joe Harris was a starter. People jumped on him, and he played 4 minutes, and didn't score one single fantasy point. They kind of did him dirty. I think that has something to do with the back-to-back. I would expect Harden to play today, and if he doesn't, then I would still go to Joe Harris. I think that the main reason he didn't play is because the game just, what they call in the NBA, what some of the coaches call a scheduled loss, right? It was a tough game. They were already missing Kyrie. They were kind of shorthanded, playing on a back-to-back. Harden was already dealing with a nagging injury. And they were playing a team that was really good in their home court. So, scheduled loss is what I like to look at it. If Harden is out, they did, looks like some sites have priced up like Chris Chiozza. DraftKings didn't, man. They've been pretty good with that stuff, but they didn't do it. Tyler Johnson obviously went nuts, and his price is still really low. FanDuel, though, I don't know. Maybe they got tired of people talking shit about him. They're starting to, starting to raise the prices a little quick on these guys. Yeah, Chios is definitely the more valuable of the bunch. I think Diallo I saw was actually probable. Yeah, okay, Diallo might be making his start. I know that's for Detroit. I just wanted to throw that out there. Detroit's another one, right? They lost DeLon Wright while we're here. So no DeLon Wright. Dennis Smith Jr. is currently questionable. Diallo is expected to play, so I don't know if we could fire away on Saban Lee, but we don't know where Diallo is going to be playing. We did see him play some point guard when he was with OKC, and they were really thin. So they traded DeLon Wright, so maybe they feel like they could work him in there. Obviously they have Saban Lee, but even if Diallo plays, he's coming back from a groin injury and hasn't played in a while. It's hard to envision him playing like a whole ton of minutes. So if Dennis Smith Jr. does play, who he's currently questionable, if he does play, now if he's ruled out, then I think, yes, Saban Lee's definitely in the equation, right? But if Dennis Smith Jr. does play, I expect him to get a pretty good chunk of the minutes. Also, without DeLon Wright in general, we could be looking at higher usage for his teammates. Guys like Grant, Sadiq Bey, even Plumlee, who's in a really good spot. For FanDuel players, Isaiah Stewart is still only 4,100. He's continuing to play well with limited minutes, a high point per minute average type player. So, someone to keep in the back of your mind, right? What other injuries we got to discuss? The Lakers we kind of know about, right? We know about Steph Curry. That's been a thing for a little bit. Buckets is one we're waiting for. So apparently, from my understanding with Jimmy Buckets, is that he was sick yesterday. So Dragic did not travel with the team. So Dragic's definitely going to be out. Butler did travel with the team. He's just a little sick. So I don't know what kind of sickness they're referring to. We'll have to wait and see. But that's some pretty impactful injury news that we're waiting for. Oladipo. So that's the other part of this. Like, I'm assuming that a lot of these trade pieces aren't going to be ready, right? Because with the COVID protocols and everything like that, it just seems unlikely. But I don't know for sure. So we do have to wait for that news to kind of come out. Hopefully we have that by the time we do our pre-lock show later on. Lonzo Ball's questionable. Keep an eye out on him for mostly Neil Walker-Alexander. I feel like he would be the safer one. But also, I think in the last game, we did see in limited minutes, Kyra Lewis did the dirty. He went out there and balled out. Played pretty well. Right, let me see if this works. Lonzo, hip injury. And then Nickeil Alexander-Walker also played well. 34 minutes, though, so he just got his. So those are pretty important for news situations that we're waiting for. Let me see. We have the Charlotte situation. They are playing Miami, which is a slower type paced team, better defensive team, but also more of a shorthanded team, assuming Oladipo and their trade pieces aren't ready, and we're still waiting on the status again of Jimmy Buckets. So this could be a thing. If Buckets does get ruled out, expect people to load up on Bam again, rightfully so. I think pretty much every game that Butler's missed, Bam has balled out in. But be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, Hero and Nunn would once again be pretty solid-looking value plays. And even Gabe Vincent, I think, had a pretty good game. He was min-priced on DraftKings. 3K went for 24 in 27 minutes. So certainly some options. Monte Morris remains out for Denver. I know they traded Gary Harris, but he wasn't playing. So I don't foresee a whole ton changing with Denver at the moment. I think they picked up JaVale McGee, right? I don't even see him on their team player pool at the moment here. But not a whole ton change with that. What else do we got here? We know the LeBron situation. I will say this for tournament purposes. I am into Schroeder again. That Laker game in general, I know I've been chasing these Laker games. Last night was a decent night to do it. It's like Schroeder actually got there against Ben Simmons, which was impressive. But Cleveland is just, the Lakers not playing very well, that we know. But Cleveland is Cleveland. So I think that as far as defense goes, they should face very little resistance on that end. Pricing is going to matter when we get to that level, but I do like Schroeder. I think I'm kind of into Kuzma, and that's a tournament game that I can get into, Cleveland and the Lakers. And speaking of injuries, we're waiting on the status of Colin Sexton also, who missed his last game. Garland's been balling out in his absence, playing a ton of minutes. Revenge spot for Larry Nance, who also played extremely well, right? Oh, just got some news live here on this show. Looks like Lonzo Ball not expected to play the next 2 games. So if that is the case, then yeah, we're going to be playing a lot of Neil Walker-Alexander. It's a boost for Zion usage-wise, a boost for Ingram, I would think. Josh Hart has been playing really well in Lonzo's absence, even not even getting a full ton of minutes. And he's doing it with like boards and steals and assists. He's, look against the Lakers, he was 1 for 9 from the field, just kind of getting it. But obviously, Nickeil Alexander-Walker becomes a straight-up cash play, optimal play. And then I think Kira Lewis in tournaments you could work in. Maybe even some Bledsoe and Josh Hart and these guys. So that just became a pretty prominent spot. If I hadn't known that news before the show, he would have been a cover boy. But he will be extremely popular. Expect that. What we have working for us is the slate is massive. So on these massive slates, sometimes players aren't as popular as they should be because there's just too many options for guys. Right? Interesting spot for Golden State. They're on a back-to-back. Atlanta's been playing well, but they are on the road. But this is a good pace boost for the Warriors. Jordan Poole, Mannion got a lot of run last night. Andrew Wiggins played really well. Oubre did not, but his price has come down on DraftKings, which I think is kind of interesting. On FanDuel, he is 7.5. His price went up, I think. But on FanDuel, they did lower him to 6.3. We'll check the status of Draymond, right? I think it's kind of a difference maker. Again, the Hawks have been playing well. That was pointed out to me. If Draymond's ruled out, though, Juan Toscano-Anderson. Now, he was extremely efficient. But the last 2 times he's played, he's been extremely efficient. He was 6 for 6 from the field, 6 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals. But I would assume if Draymond gets ruled out and people know about it, he's going to be extremely popular. I think it's like 4.3 on FanDuel. They didn't bother raising his price. So something to expect to come down at some point. So the Draymond news pretty pertinent information. You know what I'm saying? So we'll be waiting for that as well. Houston. So they don't have Oladipo anymore. Where's Houston? They're playing Minnesota. That game just looks like a straight up fast, crazy ass game, right? 2 teams that aren't very good. Maybe it's competitive. We'll see who's in or out. But good spot for Christian Wood. Good spot for John Wall, right? Gonna be matched up with like Ricky Rubio for a lot of this game. I think that's a very interesting tournament game. Some of these prices are up. Jayshawn Tate is 6K. Let's check FanDuel. Only 5.4 over here. Karl Anthony Towns, it's funny, he used to always slaughter Houston. Houston was struggled against bigs for the longest. With Christian Wood there, like I'm still debating. Christian Wood doesn't appear to be that great of a defender, but it can't be any worse than what they were doing with no center before. So I'm interested in Wood, but I'm also interested in Karl Anthony Towns. This is just a tournament game. There's nothing in particular. Yeah, we got some bodies missing. We got some people that could be out. No, Oladipo is pretty big, but we've seen that several times this season, right? That Depot didn't even play on back-to-back. So, yeah, something to pay attention to. I think in tournaments, this game's got some weight to it. I think it could do a little something. And I'm curious to see what people do with Mr. Luka Doncic, because you know what? The Pacers historically have been a pretty good defensive team, a slow-paced team. That hasn't been the case this year, man. Their defense has been atrocious. So, Luka's coming off of a really terrible game. Right, probably his worst game of the season from a fantasy output. Now, he only played 27 minutes because the game was ugly. And that's 2 straight blowouts that this team has been a part of. But I'd be willing to go back to Luka. Point guards particularly, I don't know what's up with Brogdon, but he's getting diced up by point guards. Opposing point guards. So I'm into it. There's a lot of ways to go. It's an 11-game slate, right? We're going to start with the shorthanded teams, work our way back. We could have a couple really shorthanded teams like Miami. If Butler misses, Orlando, we know, is already going to be super shorthanded, so that's going to be a big emphasis for us. And they're in a pretty good matchup as far as pace goes. Can they hang in the game? I don't know, but either way, you got to finish the game, right? So people got to play. And then tournament games, I think Cleveland, LA is pretty interesting. Golden State, Atlanta is interesting. I like the Indiana-Dallas game and the Houston-Minnesota game the most at this point. So, we'll be on the lookout for news, waiting to adjust. That's what you have to do. Again, NBA is more of a reactionary sport. We need to be able to react quickly, and got to make the right decision, which is the true skill part. That being said, we're gonna get out of here. I got the projections I did update to a degree. I'm gonna update them again for the Ross information after the show. We just got that live, and I'll get my article up before the show tonight, as I usually do. The show is at 6:15 p.m. Eastern at WiseTake.com. For subscribers, we have day passes available if you want to check it out, $2.50. You get access to all the NBA content. Other than that, Paulie's Fast Break will be out right before the show as well, so be banging out the content as usual. Try to work myself into the Slack. I'm having a hard time, trying to use my time wisely, not just as a professional, but also as a father, all this good stuff. So try to get my ass in there. I would like to be in there more. And other than that, hit the like button on your way out. Share the show as much as you can. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. For myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always. Oh, by the way, last show of the week, so we'll catch you guys next week, obviously Monday. For myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.